Welcome, welcome, welcome to another episode of Cyrus Podcast. Today, I'm my good friend, Andrew Flachner. Thank you so much for thank you for allowing me into your home.
Of course, my pleasure.
I appreciate you, man. I'm stoked about this interview. One, because you're founder of RealScout. I think arguably one of the best tech in the real estate space. But I am really excited to share your story. Really excited to kind of dive in a little bit more into like, hey, what was before RealScout? Like, why even RealScout, right? So, but yeah, thank you so much for being here.
Of course, my pleasure.
Yeah, I mean, I want to start kind of with that. Like, what did you do before RealScout?
Sure. So I have a long history of entrepreneurship. I started my first business when I was really young. It was a DJ business, but that was eons ago. And
as you were the DJ?
Yeah, I mean, my business partner and I, we did music and business, and we were DJing everything from like high school dances to weddings and congressional campaigns and all types of things.
Wow.
But that was at a really young age. I mean, I sold that business when I was 16 or 17.
Wow.
And then moved on to other pursuits. So I got my real estate license when I was in high school, fell in love with real estate.
Yeah.
Realized very quickly that there wasn't a lot of technology designed to empower real estate agents.
Yep.
At the time, it was mostly technology to disrupt real estate agents.
Yeah.
And so we were trying to figure out a way to not romanticize the status quo, but to figure out a way to invest in the industry and amplify the value that agents bring to their clients. Simultaneously started a few other businesses. One was in the healthy food space. We did vending machines for public schools.
Oh, wow.
Started a dating app, which you'd be surprised has a lot of overlap with helping people find the right homes as finding the right partners.
It's all synonymous, you know?
So did that, sold that to the former Match.com CEO. And then the founder, my co-founder from that dating app, he and I started RealScout almost 12 years ago. In May, it'll be 12 years. And for a startup, that is, a long time to be running a business.
Yeah.
But we figured out a way to build a sustainable company that's driving a lot of value and has remained independent, and we're really proud of that.
That's really freaking cool. So I'm gonna rewind back to the DJ business. You said you sold that when you were 16.
Yep.
What is it? Here's the thing is most people, most entrepreneurs in general, they build a business and they never get to the point of a sale of a business at all.
Right.
How did that even come up in your mind to think about selling a business?
At that point I was, eventually I was going to college, right?
Yeah,
So it was a big life transition. And the thing about a DJ business is you need to be local, right? You can't work remote. So it was time to let that business go. I had different aspirations. It wasn't a multi-million-dollar exit. It was essentially, a couple teenagers that were building revenue, doing what they loved, learning a lot about contracts, negotiation, liability, giving an experience to people that they won't forget, helping drive referrals.
Yeah.
Business is business. It taught me a lot of lessons, and from there we were able to springboard into other ventures. But it was a fun little chapter.
Did you where did that entrepreneur spirit come from, do you think? Do you think it was one of your parents? Do you think it was someone that you saw?
Yeah, both my parents were entrepreneurs. My dad, more of a professional practice. He was a dentist, is a dentist to this day.
Yeah.
My mom was a lactation consultant, so she, invented a pillow that helps women breastfeed. So they both, had their entrepreneurial pursuits. I was, from a very young age, interested in entrepreneurship. I would have lemonade stands and, charge my friends to use my arcade games that I, saved up to purchase, things like that.
That's so cool. Yeah, you always think for me, I was, everyone's always like, well, because I played soccer and then I got into real estate, right? And I didn't have any business background, but when I look back at it, my dad owned multiple businesses before he passed away. So it's just kind of it was ingrained in you,
Yeah, I think it's a nature and nurture thing, right? And certainly there was a point in my life where I began, finding mentors and coaches who can fuel the fire that was inside of me to build these businesses. But I think, a lot of it did come from, what my parents taught me.
That's amazing. And then you went and you built a dating app.
That's right.
What was that like? What was the motive behind that?
Yeah, so at the time, my co-founder, he was single and he found online dating to be quite awkward and very painful. And so we thought, hey, wouldn't it be interesting if you can double date, meaning you and a buddy could go out with a couple of people who you wanted to date, and essentially it makes the whole thing a lot more social, a lot less awkward, a lot safer, especially for women, to go on a date with, friends. And also just relieves a lot of the pressure. And so we built that business. It took off in parts of the world where, we didn't expect it to, right? Yeah. We had like a little burst of interest from India, where one-on-one dating is sort of taboo, or has different, social customs around it. And what we did from there was we decided that it was time for a transition. And so we linked up with the former Match.com CEO, and he wanted us to help drive a new project that he was working on. And and the rest is history. So
how do you go from like, a DJ business to like essentially software development?
Yeah.
Right? Like,
so I think that there was a through line of real estate. So when I was in high school and I got my real estate license, I realized that, in some ways, national portals were driving a wedge between my clients and myself. Right? In some ways, they were really helpful to agents, and in other ways, I felt like I wasn't able to see what my clients were searching for. I wasn't able to understand how their tastes were changing. I didn't have visibility into my pipeline, and I certainly wasn't the center of their digital experience. Fast forward 12 years, and that's still a problem that the industry faces, right? Where consumers are stuck on other platforms that agents don't have visibility into or control over. So. Real estate was the through line. I was a real estate agent even while I was simultaneously, building these other businesses. And then at some point I decided to focus all of my attention on solving this problem that real estate agents universally have.
So, but do you did you study software engineering? Like, how did you build like the actual software? It's
a good question. And I think you'll find people on either side of the aisle when it comes to, should founders of a tech company be technical? And my answer is yes. Although I was able to pull that off by partnering with somebody who is technical. And my co-founder, Michael, is a brilliant technologist, and he is self-taught, but ended up becoming just, brilliant at what he does, a master of his craft. And I, didn't dabble in it for very long because it's not, my skill. It's not something I wanted to double down on.
Yeah, I talk about it all the time with a bunch of different leaders and companies, and we always talk about like how a good leader is really good at finding the right people to do the job the best.
Right.
Where like your co-founder, you let him do what he's best at versus, which is probably why you guys have such a good partnership, right? Like he lets you do what you're good at and you let him do what he's good at.
And it's a philosophical decision, right? Do you want to focus on your weaknesses or do you want to double down on your strengths? And for me, I think it's important that he doubles down on his strengths. And like I said, he's, evolved as a technologist over the years and is incredibly gifted at what he does. And I can focus on, partnerships and revenue and everything else that goes into that side of the business.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. So then you guys started RealScout 12 years ago.
Yep.
And obviously it just blew up. It was the best product in the world. And that was it, right?
It's funny because, we'll go in chronological order, but just as a quick fast forward, just in the past few months, the level of growth that RealScout has experienced has really blown our doors off. And, some people, they do imagine this linear growth line, and that's typically not how it looks at all. So, no, there was a lot of false starts, a lot of dead ends. We knew we were onto something, but it almost felt like the industry took a while to catch on. And in reality, I think one of the reasons for that is in our industry, there are a lot of distractions. There are a lot of people trying to solve problems, which is fantastic. It's great to have that level of innovation. But if you go to any of these conferences and you see all the startups, and it can be dizzying. And it took a long time for us to reinforce our value proposition, to build social proof by getting, top real estate leaders like yourself onto the product and seeing an outcome with it. And then frankly, just to take a little bit more responsibility, I think we were sort of off on our messaging, and it took a while to get clarity and speak to the industry in a way that was just crystal clear. And, evolved RealScout from this vitamin, which is, how do we keep clients off of national portals, into something that felt more like a tourniquet, which is if you have this database of people, this CRM, and you know that a lot of those people are dormant, how do you reactivate them and drive more business to your bottom line? And the former is more of an ego thing, keeping clients on technology you control. But if you think about it practically, if you can drive more income, if you can drive more commissions to your bottom line, that becomes critically important. And at that point, it's no longer a nice to have. It's not, I saw this, RealScout thing at a convention. It's, hey, I need to talk to your sales team right now because I'm convinced that this can solve an important business need for me.
100%. Yeah, and it's like I actually, going back to what you had said is like all these different startups, all this stuff, like, real estate, I read a statistic the other day, we're the most sold to industry. So there's more products for problems that we have, and I always tell agents, like, especially when they're getting in the business, like, don't get shiny object syndrome.
Right.
Like, find the right tools that work and stick with those, because it's very easy to be like, I'm here, and then, oh wait, look at that.
That's right. And I think that in this industry too, everyone broadcasts their contact information. So it's very easy. I mean, somehow, even as the founder and president of RealScout, I still get on email lists of people trying to sell me video editing services and business cards and, for sale signs because, 12 years ago, I was a real estate agent and my name is being passed around on all these lists. So you're right. It is very easy to get distracted. And that's why we learned there's not really an easy shortcut. You need to have enough social proof and enough people talking about how your product actually works for it to take off organically. And that's something that we were, I would say lucky to come across, but it took a lot of hard work and it took a very long time.
Yeah, and you said something in the very beginning. It's like you've managed to stay independent. You managed to do what you've done in a way that, like, you don't have to answer to anybody, which is also a very powerful thing in building any company for what the purpose is.
Right.
Because I feel like understanding, like your superpower, like, is understanding the industry and what agents are actually going through.
Right.
And then being able to act on that versus someone maybe coming in, building a technology and not understanding what they're actually going through.
Right.
So when you first built that, like that first, let's say, first model of RealScout, what kept you going when it wasn't maybe working right away?
Yeah, I mean, listen, we our revenue wasn't taking off like a rocket in the early years, but we were certainly pitching a value prop that was resonating in many ways. I'll never forget it. The first time I met really anyone in the industry was a guy named Brian Boero of 1000 Watt Consulting, right? They did a lot of branding for teams and brokerages. And, we were meeting at a hotel in San Francisco and I was showing him our earliest pitch deck. This is before we really raised any money. And he said, you know what, this is so good. Tomorrow there's this conference in town called the Inman Conference, and I want to see if I can get you on stage to talk about this product. So it was those moments where people believed in what we were building that kept us going. And then ultimately it was the success stories, right? It was, sure, we didn't have many customers, but the customers we did have were reporting the fact that, hey, this product really works. And, not to go off on too much of a tangent here, but there are a lot of products in our industry where they, I would call them vanity products, right? Where you invest in it, it makes you feel good about yourself, but it doesn't actually drive a lot of business for you. We never wanted to be that. We wanted to be so laser focused on the middle of the funnel, helping nurture a database that you couldn't pull RealScout out of your tech stack if you wanted to, because a lot of your revenue would dry up, right? And I think we finally got there.
So talk to me about that. Talk to me about, like, what is the value of RealScout? How am I actually getting business from using RealScout?
Yeah, so it's pretty straightforward. You have a database. We all have a database, whether it's on postcards and Post-its or whether it's a CRM. You have a sphere of influence. You have a contact book. You have an address list, whatever it may be. And those people are buyers, some of them are sellers, but for the vast majority of people, they are somewhere in between those buying and selling moments.
Yeah.
And the problem is that those folks have questions about real estate and they're not going to you. You may think they're going to you, but they're not going to you.
Yeah.
If they want to know what their home is worth, is the first thing they do call up Cyrus? No, the first thing they do is literally go on Zillow and see what their home is worth.
Yep.
If they want to know what their neighbor's house just sold for, are they going to call Cyrus, or are they going to pop open their Redfin app and see what the neighbor's house sold for? There are some that are going to call you, but many of them are just going to rely on, frankly, Zillow, which is a verb, and it is something where there are more people searching for the word Zillow on Google than the word real estate. So they've done it. They've become ubiquitous. They've become part of our vocabulary. So how does that affect a real estate agent? Well, it means that you are going to have attrition in your pipeline. You're going to have attrition because people are not going to think of you. You're not going to be top of mind when they have a question about real estate. Sure, somebody you've done business with for many years, they're probably safe. But if it's somebody you met at an open house 6 months ago, they may not remember who you are. So how do you nurture those folks at each stage of the client life cycle when they do have a question about what listings are on the market or what's selling in their neighborhood? That's where RealScout comes in. And so you could think about RealScout as a way to nurture your entire database automatically with the type of data that your consumers are going to get from the national portals or Realtor.com or Redfin, whatever it may be. So a good example would be, if you plug in, let's just pick a CRM like, I don't know, Close, or let's pick Follow Up Boss, right? If you have Follow Up Boss, and Follow Up Boss is one of the many CRMs that integrate with RealScout, you can literally flip a switch and we will start nurturing your entire database. So if you have somebody in your Follow Up Boss account and you know that they are at 123 Green Street, we will send them a home value alert every month saying, hey Cyrus, here's what Zillow thinks your home is worth. Here's what this other company thinks your home is worth. Reach out to me for a professional opinion. And that way you're going to be top of mind. So that's just one of the ways that we nurture a database. But ultimately it's about incubating your database because you're going to get much higher ROI doing that than buying more leads.
Yeah, 100%. So you're basically getting them the information before they need to ask for the information.
Exactly.
Which is super powerful because by the time they're ready, they're going to say, oh, wait, you know what? Cyrus just sent me that the other day. I could just go into my email and check versus, oh, let me Google.
Right.
Which is
and this
idea.
is not a new concept, right? Staying in touch with your clients, nurturing your database. This is, advice as old as time, right? But the problem is that people are not very good at it because it requires a lot of effort. And if the best the industry can do is send, daylight savings reminders and Valentine's Day cards, you're going to have a problem in your business, right? But if as a real estate professional, send real estate data that's relevant and timely to your clients, you're going to generate more transactions.
100%. And so you have that's the auto nurture feature, right?
Right.
And then you have some stuff that's pretty cool on the listing, like the test the market. Things like that, right? Talk to me about that.
Well, you're a power user because a lot of people don't even discover those features.
Which I think, arguably, I think it's one of my favorite features of RealScout, personally.
Yeah, so what you're describing, let's talk about test the market for a minute. This is an industry where the average real estate agent really understands the supply side. If I said, Cyrus, how many, $2 million listings are there in Orange County right now? You can tell me within minutes. But if I asked you how many buyers are searching for a $2 million home in this part of Orange County, you probably don't have the answer. And without RealScout. And so what RealScout does is, because we have reached saturation in so many markets and have so many agents and their clients on the platform, we can start to reveal insights about buyer demand. And this hasn't been done before in real estate. But what's really cool about it is that it starts to build confidence with sellers. So right now is a great example. Right now there's a lot of uncertainty in the market. Interest rates are bouncing around. People are concerned about the state of the economy. If you can show a seller that they would have this many buyers at a $2 million price point, but then by simply lowering the list price by 4%, they can capture 17% more of the buyers in the market. That starts to give them a data-driven insight and helps paint you as a sophisticated real estate professional. You're not somebody who's just going to put the listing on the market and hope for the best. You're using data to inform your pricing and marketing strategy.
Dude, I legitimately, this is how I use it. I literally go to my listing appointment. I did it the other day. I go to my listing appointment. It's $3.5 million listing. She wants 4.2. She wants to list it at 4.2 million. And I said, okay, let's talk about that. Let's talk about price, but I'm not going to talk about, hey, this is my opinion. Let's pull up data. Let's look at this. I literally pulled up RealScout Test the Market. I put the address. I said, this is for your house, by the way. This is not for, some random blanket like these portals are using. This is for your house. So let's go. I put the address. How many bedrooms is it again? Oh yeah, okay, cool. So she sees that I'm putting all the data in. I put 4.2 million. Okay, well, if you list at 4.2 million, this is how many buyers you're gonna get. But if I dropped it to the 3.5 million that I think it should be at, look at how many more buyers you're gonna get. And she was like, okay. Like, and no other agent was able to have that conversation with her. She interviewed 2 other agents that are top agents.
Right.
But she couldn't, they were just like, yeah, we'll list it at 4.2.
Well, and here's the thing is that at that price point, you know, the inventory is a little more heterogeneous, right? There's going to be more differences in between. In other words, the comps aren't going to be as relevant at that price point because there's not going to be, you know, 15 sales in the neighborhood last month, right? So
100%. And it's so powerful to be able to show, like, these are buyers that are looking for your home. Like this, now it's not exactly yours, but it's getting the buyers that are looking for that type of home.
That's right.
Which is so freaking powerful. So that's like why, I'm listing heavy, right? So like, that's like one of my favorite features is that tests the market. But how else could an agent utilize RealScout?
I mean, we touched on it briefly, but the home value alerts, I just have to double down on that because the results that we're seeing from people that mind-blowing, right?
Yeah.
So a good example would be Gary Ashton, #1 Remax team in the world, and he's like, oh, I don't really know RealScout well. Let me just give you a small amount of my database. I think it was like 3,500 people in his database. Within 20 days, he had 49 sellers that said, hey, I want to know what my home is worth. That is outstanding.
That's insane.
I mean, think about how much it would cost to buy leads that would generate that level of activity. He didn't have to spend, any money on additional leads. He just got RealScout going for a very small segment of his database. I spoke with another agent, a woman by the name of Gigi Lopez in Miami, and she had RealScout going for a month and got 2 listings, not listing appointments, listings. And she's a newer agent with a much smaller database, around 500, 600 people in her database. So the home value alerts are great because, listen, there's a lot of products out there that will send a valuation to a client. I won't name names, but what they usually do is they have one valuation estimate, and they'll say, your home is worth $1 million. That is problematic. And the reason why it's problematic is because it tells you, Cyrus, the home seller, that conversation's over. You know what your home is worth. The agent is telling you it's worth $1 million. Now, we all know that the algorithms are not accurate, but now the agent is implying that the algorithm is accurate, and it really puts an end to the conversation. What we do is we use something called tactical confusion, right? And it stokes some curiosity, right? It says, hey, Zillow thinks your home is worth $1 million. This other company thinks it's worth $900,000. And that leaves the consumer wondering, well, what is it? And beneath it, we have a big disclaimer that says an algorithm is not great for pricing your home. This is an indicator, but there's a discrepancy between these numbers. Reach out to me and I'll make sense of the market for you. And that immediately makes you the hero of this story. And it also just informs the consumer of a very well-known fact among the industry, which is it takes some, human intelligence to make sense of the market and understand local market conditions. So that is, just a little intel on why we built the alert the way we did, but the conversion rates are off the charts. And so that is, if there's one thing that, anyone who's listening to this podcast, who's using RealScout or wants to use RealScout, one thing that they take home, it would be that. Set your database up for home value alerts, because the reality is it doesn't need to be active sellers that you do this with. It's anyone in your database that is a homeowner or will be a homeowner, because if you can have somebody who's in between those buying and selling moments get updates on their home's value, they're going to reach out to you when the time is right.
I love that. That's honestly, like, that's the other, because we were using another tool and it was just way too much information for the consumer as well. Like that was a big issue too. It's like, no one needs to know how much I'm going to get for a home equity line of credit or percentage of this. Like, they want to know how much their home's worth.
Well, and they have different interests, right? Some of those products are actually built for the mortgage industry, and real estate agents are just a conduit to the consumer. For us, we built this product for the real estate industry.
I love that. Now, what's next for RealScout? Like, obviously, you guys, we talked about it from, just 4 or 5 years ago. The product has grown so much, not just in user base, but in technical ability. Right. And I'm really excited at where it's going, but where is it going?
Yeah, there's a lot of different ways to take this question. We are now at cruising altitude, and what that means is we're no longer trying to figure out, do we have a solution to a real problem? We're no longer trying to figure out, is there product market fit? What we're doing is working, but we can do it all a lot better. So it means more integrations with more CRMs, deeper integrations with CRM. We talk about Follow-Up Boss, something we haven't even announced yet, but which is now published as of yesterday, is there's more tags that you can now create action plans from. If a client views a property 3 times in a row on RealScout, that can trigger an action plan or put them into a smart list. So there's a lot more advanced functionality we're going to be unlocking.
Yeah.
And then the name of the game is consumer engagement. And so how can we engage consumers with different types of alerts, with more data in those alerts? Our market activity alert we didn't talk about, but this is for you set somebody up just to see what's happening in their neighborhood, recent comps. There's a lot of market data we can add to that. So those are just a few of the things that we're thinking through this year. And then honestly, a big part of it is fulfilling demand. There's a lot of people in the community who have complained about the fact that we don't have our newest product, RealScout Pro Plus, available to individual agents. It's because we really just can't keep up with the demand that would come from people trying to buy the product, which sounds crazy to say, and it's a good problem for us to have, but we want to make sure that we can onboard people successfully, give them the right resources, support them well. And so a lot of it is fulfilling demand. We're going to be announcing some pretty big partnerships. In Q4 of last year, we announced a partnership with Anywhere, the parent company of Coldwell Banker, Century 21, Sotheby's, ERA, Corcoran, Better Homes and Gardens Real Estate. That's a lot. That's a lot to implement and to implement well. So there's a lot of exciting things on the docket for this year. I would say expect a lot of enhancements, and we don't have like an annual release cycle. We're releasing these and pushing out these updates every few weeks.
I love that. That's what I also love, just going back to like looking at other products, because that's, I make it my job to know what else is there, right?
Right.
And not only just the constant updates of different things and different features, but also like your guys' UX UI is just so much better than every other product.
Thank you.
It is so much better.
We are going to be making some big updates there too. So we send hundreds of millions of alerts, right? Hundreds of millions of emails. And it's been some time since they got a proper, facelift. More than a facelift, but certainly the visual design can use some tweaking. And then we can add, more relevant, actionable data there. But it's all about increasing the amount of valuable conversations and interactions that agents have with their consumers, right? So it's just amazing to see how a small tweak in the product can increase the engagement between a client and an agent. I'll give you one example that is, some inside baseball that might be kind of interesting. Early on in our product development, what happened was we were showing the open house information to the consumer. And a lot of agents said, well, wait a second, that makes me a little uncomfortable. I want my clients to come to me to get a showing. And our response to that is, well, if we don't show it, they're going to go to Redfin or Zillow and get the answer there. And so we found this really interesting way to satisfy both clients and agents, because if we don't satisfy the clients, then the agents are going to be pretty unhappy, right? I mean, obviously this is designed to be a magnet for your consumers. So what we did was we have a little button that says show open house information. And if they click that, it'll reveal the open house information, but it will also inform the real estate agent that they clicked that link. Right? So it allows you to reach out and be like, hey, it looks like you were interested in an open house. How about we get you in for a private showing so you don't have to worry about competing with a stampede of other people, and we can give you the real facts about the property.
I love that.
Again, it's splitting the difference in a way that is good for the agent and good for the consumer and sustainable.
Dude, I appreciate you for one, sharing your story and sharing kind of how you came to where you're at now, but also just sharing your knowledge with the industry, because I really truly believe I have abundance mindset, and the fact that we all, all boats rise, with whatever.
Yeah, rising tide lifts all ships.
You get what I'm saying. This is thought process that we all can win, and I truly feel that you have that deep down in your core, which is why you've been able to build a product for the industry that wants to truly you truly want to help the industry grow. Versus, it's not just a me thing, which is really powerful. So I appreciate you and thank you for that.
Of course. I mean, I came from the industry, so I know what it's like sitting open houses, driving around clients on the weekends. I was there. So we want to make the lives of real estate professionals easier. We want them to generate more income for their families, but we wanted to do it in a very careful and thoughtful way, a very focused way.
Love that. I appreciate you. If people want to connect with you, how do they find you? How do they connect with you?
Yeah, so a lot of people follow me on Instagram. I'm just A Flachner.
How do you spell that?
It's AFLACHNER.
Perfect.
And then lately, I've been getting a lot of engagement on LinkedIn. So if you want more of a business flavor, professional, commentary, things like that, LinkedIn is probably a good place to follow me.
Awesome. I appreciate you so much. Thank you so much for taking your time to be here.
Of course. Thank you.
Thank you.